I started to think about when they talk about innovation and ingenuity, I mean, we have a little ways to go in education to get ourselves there. So, Carol, it's all up to you.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, as Jovette said, that in my earlier days, I was running around with Mr. Gilmer when he was planning director in Lake County. And so I spent 23 years as a city planner in Cuyahoga County. So I was very into government and land use and green space issues. And so what happened is, I'm looking for the next thing in my life, and I had always been interested in how nature and how humans interact with nature, and biomimicry became wow, this is kind of cool. So what I want to do today is tell you what biomimicry is, give you some examples of it, and then talk to you about what Great Lakes Biomimicry is doing in Northeast Ohio, building an educational system and a business system that will intersect with people that are trained to know how to look to nature to answer questions, and companies that want those kind of people to help their business flourish. So, with that, back here to... So, what is biomimicry? Bios means life, mimesis to imitate. I have a friend who hears this and she thinks of mimes in the woods. So they're miming and they're in the woods, so it must be natural. But really it is something that has been done as far as human beings have been alive. It just usually took a genius to do it. So what we're doing now is looking at a cross-disciplinary approach to how you take an idea from nature and make it into a product or a service. So using biologists, designers, and engineers bring these products and service to the market with business expertise. So in our adult professional worlds, we seem to be very siloed into what we're really good at. And what we're trying to do through biomimicry is break down those silos and get professions to talk to each other, which I think is also a goal in education, to bring the subjects together to teach in exciting and new ways. And for a lot of companies, it's a way to operationalize sustainability goals. So companies have an idea, we're going to recycle. And we're as green as we're ever going to be. But really, if you think about that, life has been on Earth for 3.8 million years. That life that we see around us has figured it out. Their strategies on how they live in this world are what makes you sustainable. And if you can translate that to how you operate your business or educate your kids, the world will be a better place. So here's some examples. Top left there is lotus on paint. So a lotus leaf comes out of the muck and the marsh, and it's perfectly clean. And why is that? And that's because of the microscopic structure of the texture of the leaf. And water will ball up on a lotus leaf, and then it takes the debris away with it. And this company has developed a paint that will do the same thing. You put it somewhere, the microstructure mimics or copies the lotus leaf, and then you don't need detergents, you don't need anything but a drop of water to clean the surface. The beetle right next to the paint, that is a bombardier beetle, and they spray poison on their predators, and how their morphology or how they are built, it creates such a fine mist that human beings have not been able to replicate it yet. So there are applications in the healthcare industry to get medicine out at a very fine rate that you can learn from the bombardier beetle. The bottom left, the Shinkansen bullet train. I think it's time to change the name of that train because it used to be shaped like a bullet. It's in Japan, and you think of bullets going really fast. Well, what was happening was the bullet train would cause a sonic boom every time it went through a tunnel at 200 miles an hour. And, the Japanese people were saying, this is not acceptable. So one of the engineers that worked on this project was also a birder. So he was out watching birds one day and saw this kingfisher bird drop from the air to the water without a splash. And so then he wondered, was there something about the shape of that beak that makes a difference? And so they redesigned the train. It uses less energy to go 15% faster, and it does not cause a sonic boom. So win-win all around. And then fluid dynamics, this idea, the tall left thing as you see is a whale flipper. And on the front leading edge there, they're called tubercles, and they're pretty random and bumpy and lumpy. And you think, well, if something's going to move through the water or the air, it should be very smooth. Well, what happened is, as they studied that, those tubercles are what allows a whale the maneuverability it needs to collect fish to eat. And it also allows for more movement with less energy. And so there are applications being explored of putting those bumpy tubercle type things onto wind turbine blades and making the blades move quicker with less wind. Here's a couple more examples. This is, we probably have all used plywood in our day, and plywood is made with a glue that is heavy in formaldehyde. And what Columbia Forest Products has done is mimicked or copied what the blue mussel does in its adhesion to rocks and docks and boats probably along the coast, where they create a sticky substance that allows them to stick where they need to stick, but then release and move. And so what Columbia Forest Product is copy the microstructure and the chemistry of that glue and use it to make plywood that is not so heavy in formaldehyde. This company, Philogent, has it makes a series of filters and masks that filter out virus and bacteria in the same way that our human cells fight viruses and bacteria. So that mechanism that our cells use to defend ourselves, they have copied and are using it to make masks and filters. This is an emperor penguin. This is some promising research that's been done. It hasn't been applied yet to a commercial offering. But this emperor penguin, you see the orange streak on its beak, and you wonder, well, why is that there? Well, it turns out that research has shown that that orange streak reflects ultraviolet rays. So these penguins are out in the, there's no trees in Antarctica or wherever the penguins live. You can tell I'm not a biologist. I should have said that at the very beginning. But the beaks are made of keratin, which is the same as our hair and nails, and ultraviolet light is degrading to that material. So to have this orange streak reflecting ultraviolet light is a way to protect itself. And so are there window screens or some sort of application to solve a human problem that we can learn from how this orange patch on an emperor penguin beak works? Here's some more promising research. Have you ever sat in your lawn, on the lawn, and you pull a piece of grass and try and tear it crosswise? You can't do it. The molecular structure of the grass is such that you can only tear it long ways. And what are the applications for that in a fabric or some sort of material where maybe the stresses are crosswise and you continually have to replace something? So if you make the material like a blade of grass, then you have solved that problem. Who thinks of this stuff? You know what? I think I should do this. Does anybody have any Velcro on them right now? Because Velcro is biomimetic. In the 1940s, there was a guy, the guy who invented it in England, was the burrs always got caught on his dog whenever he took him out. So he took the burr and he put it under the microscope and said, well, maybe we could make a fastener that's like this burr. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
We might want to go there though. Sure, I'll be looking at it forever.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, it's true. You go outside and it's a whole new world. So the principle of biomimicry is that it's collaborative across disciplinary. And we're hoping in the education realm as well as the professional realm. And in terms of our educational realm, it's not an add-on tool. That's one thing that I've learned very quickly in this job, is that teachers don't need something else that they have to teach to or test for. But what biomimicry does is gets kids and people engaged in a way that can solve a problem. Like, if you're interested in art, we need you. If you're interested in biology, we need you. If you're the guy or the girl that's going to, change the world through business, these are the things we need. So it's, and because nature is pretty prevalent in a lot of our lives, it's something that you can engage people with at the zoo, at the metro parks, or even in sometimes, if you're in Lake County, there's a lot of open space in people's yards. Oh, see, now there's one of the slides got washed out in this projector. But really, biomimicry touches on a lot of the subjects, or most of the subjects. I know that science and engineering come up first, but we're working with a school that the English and social studies teachers are exploring human beings' relationship with nature over time, and having people explore that through their history classes and then, writing classes. And then we had another art and science teacher combination where kids brought in a problem that they had to solve. This was in 7th grade. And so then they did their research in science class about how nature solves that problem. And then in art class, they had to build a prototype. And so that there was this great combination going there. So there's both fundamental skills that can be taught through biomimicry, and then also the 21st century skills of collaboration and problem solving and writing and persuasion and research techniques. So this is our partnership. I'm sorry, I can't read all of it. Great Lakes Biomimicry, we sit at the hub of a lot of things in the region. The top is the University of Akron. They have the world's only doctorate program in biomimicry down at the University of Akron. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. We have business partners that we're working with, and they're working with the University of Akron: Sherwin-Williams, Gojo, Parker Hannafin, Lubrizol, and Ross Environmental Services. Let's see. So the hexagon you can't read is funders that we are working with foundations in the region. Fundamental to it all, the K through 12 classrooms, the colleges and universities in the region. We're working with Hiram and Kent and Baldwin-Wallace, as well as the University of Akron. And then just this idea that creating jobs and creating trained people to fill those jobs is a public-private partnership. And what I wanted to talk with you today about is a project that's going on in Lorain County that may have some relevance here in Lake County. So Lake Ridge Academy is a private school in North Ridgeville, and they have been thinking about sustainability in their educational offerings for quite a long time. And in the last couple of years have started to look at biomimicry as an organizing tool. And so what has happened is that through the University of Akron, we have corporate fellows of those companies that I just mentioned to you, and we now are placing education fellows. So under 2012, you see Emily, she works at Gojo. She found out about Northeast Ohio in Australia. Bill is in the middle at the left. He found out about biomimicry. He's from Taiwan, and he came to University of Akron. Daphne, or Dauphin, I should say, when you're from Belgium, that's how you say it. She's from Belgium, and she came to the University of Akron. Top middle column, Sebastian is working at Ross Industries and getting his PhD at the University of Akron. He came from Germany. And Kelly Simon actually grew up in Hiram, but was living in Hawaii when she found out about the doctorate program. And so she's moved back to Northeast Ohio. And she is an education fellow. The other fellows are working with companies 15 to 20 hours a week. And Kelly is working with Lake Ridge Academy, and then through the funding of the Nord Foundation, we are planning to work with Lorain County schools. So what we want to do is create a professional learning community where not any one teacher is holding all the weight of creating curriculum and lessons based on biomimicry. What is so wonderful about Lake Ridge Academy is even though they are not technically, the state standards don't apply because they're a private school, they are very interested in working with the other Lorain County schools to make sure that what is created is applicable for standards aligned. And then I'm also learning something about the next gen science standards. I don't know if there's science. All this blows my mind what you guys have to deal with and get good grades. It's just amazing. And then what we want to do is really create a blog that these teachers can share about what worked, what didn't work, and that eventually those curriculum pieces and lessons and the blog would be available to more teachers in schools. So here's the schools that we're working with right now. The National Hall of Fame Inventor STEM School, the GAR Foundation and Dominion Foundation have funded a fellow for their middle school. And we are keeping our fingers crossed that this fall we'll have a fellow start there. Lake Ridge Academy, I just explained about Lorain County. And then the Cleveland MC Squared High School, we are in the process of raising funds to place a fellow there. This summer, we've had someone who is a teacher and who is a trained biomimicry specialist do a 10-week, or I said this spring to summer, a 10-week unit in 10th grade on biomimicry. So we're starting to get our feet wet about what this is like in the classroom. And then we've had a lot of interest expressed by the schools you see there, and I guess I'll have to add Lake County schools to that list.
You already have it up there.
Oh, do I have it? Did I?
Oh,
yeah, there you go, I did it.
Yeah.
All right. So here we are. Does anybody have any questions about biomimicry before I go any farther into what we're trying to do at Great Lakes Biomimicry in the region? Yeah.
What was 2 or 3 schools that Kelly was looking for in Lorain County?
The other schools?
Yeah.
We're meeting with folks. I presented to superintendents a couple weeks ago, and then next week we'll be meeting with people to see who wants in, who wants in but doesn't have the time. So we're still figuring out those 2 or 3 schools. Yeah.
Any examples of a practical application?
Yeah, so I talked about the lotus on paint, the paint that's like a lotus leaf, that there's plywood that is built or using glue after blue mussel. There is the train that was designed with a shape of a bird's beak. So yes, there's many practical applications. So for Great Lakes Biomimicry, our vision is a bit of a mouthful, and so I won't read it out loud, but you can see that we're interested in regional economic development, and we're interested in educating people to become versed in how to learn from nature. And then our mission is to create the conditions for innovation, and that means providing that platform for people to come with their ideas and see what we can do about creating new companies and teaching our kids about biomimicry. So most recently, this whole effort started with this woman. Her name is Janine Benyus, and she wrote a book in 1997 called Innovation Inspired by Nature. And it's on this is on this list that is over with your handouts. It is a global effort now. Her basic premise is that life has been on Earth for 3.8 billion years, and it's time for us to try to learn from nature rather than have nature be a warehouse where we take things from. So she was actually here in Akron in the fall of 2012, and she met the first 3 biomimicry fellows of the pictures of the young people I showed you. And I was surfing, I was on the web searching Janine Benyus, and this is a quote that came out of a magazine in Europe. So here she is talking about Northeast Ohio and how proud she was of what's happening here. And, so you can see I put it in the slideshow because I'm pretty proud of it too. So Janine Benyus's organization is in Missoula, Montana. It's called Biomimicry 3.8. And they do consulting work with companies, and then they also have a Biomimicry Institute that works on education issues. Next in this world map is Northeast Ohio. We are their first and only, so far, founding affiliate with the global organization. Our board and our staff have visited them, met them. I've been trained by them. Several people in the region have been trained by them. Other places in the world that are looking at biomimicry as an innovation tool, you see on the orange dots. The Netherlands and South Africa are moving, historically, I'd say the last 5 years they've been so active. But the west coast of the United States is really catching up. Mexico City has a great effort. And then there's even more people who maybe have read the book, have found have made something that was biomimetic and it was successful, and they're looking at how can we introduce this to our region. So we're pretty proud to be the first in the world to be where we are. And that's not usual for Northeast Ohio. And it's also kind of scary because there's so many people that want what we have here. So, but I'd love,
Why
go
do
ahead.
Why do you think Northeast Ohio?
Why do I think Northeast Ohio? So Northeast Ohio has been asking questions about sustainability for 15 years. And I think there's others like me who found that biomimicry is a tangible tool. Sustainability is sort of ethereal. It's, what goal are we reaching toward? But biomimicry, you can, research, look to nature, solve a problem, or, and then try and take something to market, and it seems like a very tangible methodology. The other thing, I think the University of Akron has been quite a leader in this. Baldwin Wallace University is stepping right up to the plate. They're having classes start in the fall. The Cleveland Institute of Art has a professor, Doug Page, who got trained in biomimicry. So it just seems to be this great coalescing of people interested in this. And then, there's a lot that was invented in Northeast Ohio. A lot. And, I like to think that legacy of invention is just bubbling up again. My favorite story is Chef Boyardee. I don't know if you knew that, down in Cleveland. He was the first person to put the pasta and the tomato sauce and the cheese all in one box. Mind-blowing, right? Now it's like, well, yeah, of course. But when you think about what we can learn from an oak tree or the frog that burrows underground around here, and when it's freezing and it freezes but it doesn't die, well, how does that frog, what makes the ice crystals different in that frog, and what can we, what problem can we solve? So I think it's our, a little bit of our innovation legacy coming forward. This handsome guy here is a spider, actually. I don't know where it's from. Bill, who's working at Sherwin-Williams, is also very interested in spiders. And he's looking at the structural color that nature has. There's nothing in nature that paints. Everything that you see that has color in nature is a structural color. It's reflecting different wavelengths of light. And so I think Sherwin-Williams is right on the ball to say, let's start to take a look at that. So that's all I have. I'd love to talk with you about anything you heard, maybe hear from you what ideas are in your head. I'm so glad that you guys took your time on this beautiful afternoon. This place is a paradise. I've never been to I've been to Painesville many times, but never been to this college, so I appreciate being able to come out here today.